just sort of told my story, so I kind of like to go straight to the questions. So, okay, sure, right here.
Congratulations on you created a game changer.
Thanks.
For solutions. I'm unclear as to whether the primary production of the drill rigs, is that a primary production and then fracking is a secondary recovery, or is that one of the same drill?
Well, it's interesting. The question was, is fracking the primary part of the drilling or is it the secondary part of the production? And there's been fracking for 50 years. It was a traditionally it was a method of last resort. You would drill for oil or gas in sort of an anticline, which is a dome where it was free flowing, and then once it was starting to run out, you would go ahead and frack the well with water. And it was like a desperation measure, the last measure. And with this new kind of drilling, it's the primary objective. So you don't get anything out until you've actually fracked it in those shale formations. So that's the big change. And the pressure, the amount of pressure, the amount of chemicals, the depth, the horizontal drilling, all that stuff is new. So it's very, very different from traditional fracking, and it is the main objective. And I've heard from, Will Masubra and other people that you have to frack these wells quite a lot to get them to keep producing. So that's interesting. It was actually, as we're running out of this stuff, the desperation technique becomes the primary way to do it. Right here.
The Canadian shale, I think they're actually physically extract the shale out. In this case, is the shale too far down to be pulled out so they just get the gas?
Are you talking about like the tar sands?
I thought it was shale.
I'm not really familiar with exactly what you're talking about. I know that in Canada there's this tar sands that they're digging up the whole thing and then they're squeezing it, and that's in this, the shale formations can be anywhere from near the surface to 11,000 feet down. So it really depends on the area. The Marcellus Shale, for example, in New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, parts of it, daylight, it's actually above ground in a town called Marcellus. And then other parts of it are like 8,000 feet. And it varies in depth. But looking at not to get too technical, they do frack it at various levels, and not only in the shale formation. They can frack it above that as well on their way down. So one of the things that the industry likes to say is safe about this is it's really, really far underground. But then this result, at least what I've seen across the country and what all these reports that are coming in, is still the same. It's water contamination. And the air issues obviously are above ground, so those are easy to understand. Jan here? Yes, Steve?
Yeah, I just wondered about vernal. We get what we call inversions around here with this dark black cloud that comes down.
In Vernal, Utah?
No, I mean right here in Salt Lake City, we
right.
have these inversions where there's stuff that I see people that have masks on their faces. They don't want to even breathe the air. Could this be some of the stuff that's going on in Vernal? There's a lot of wells out there in Vernal.
Yeah.
And how is it affecting the area right here?
Well,
and how about the water supply that we're getting here?
I'm not an expert on this exact area. I do know that there's gas drilling in Utah. And I know a little bit about the inversions in Sublette County, for example, where the Pinedale Anticline and joint gas fields are. I was talking to somebody last night about this from there. Those inversions actually bring those layers back down to the ground. So that's when you get this massive amount of pollution. And there were air advisories in those counties where there's so very few people. They said you shouldn't leave your house today if you're a small child, if you're an older person, if you have asthma, anything like that. Just don't go outside. And those are partially due to those inversions where the layer comes back down. And I know somebody in a cab from the airport was telling me about the inversions and how bad the smog can get during that time.
Is that coming from Vernal?
From Vernal? Yeah, sure. Vernal is between Grand Junction and here, right? Isn't that right? Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, right here.
First of all, congratulations on making a very difficult subject wildly entertaining.
Thank you.
Question about the filmmaking process. How long did it take, and beyond the grant from Sundance, how did you possibly finance this film?
Wow, the grant from Sundance actually came in at the very last minute to help us do our sound mix. They actually told me the other day that it was the fastest turnaround in their grant-making history, which is really a big surprise to us. We had applied to Sundance and we didn't know if we were in yet, and all of a sudden they're like, we're going to give you this amount of money. So we were shocked, and we took it, obviously. And we've been, you know, International Wow Company, which is, you know, up until now been primarily a theater company that deals with international issues, is a nonprofit. So we raise money through our nonprofit. And also, there's so many people here in these affected areas that are worried about it coming, or that have experience in dealing with it. So we raise money through our website. Some of those were bigger donations of a couple $1,000s. I got a whole bunch of $10 checks that were amazing from all across the country. And that's how we kind of put it together. But it was really, we had the cameras. A lot of that stuff is very not expensive. And I did a lot of it by myself, or with Matt Sanchez, the editor, Molly Gandor, first producer, and Laura Newman. And so in the beginning, it was just a very small operation, and it's moved along considerably, thankfully, since then. Yeah, in the back.
Well, have you been approached by anybody to hopefully make this available to a wider audience?
Yes. But if anybody in the audience is interested, we'll meet you in the lobby. None of those deals are done yet. So it's available. First row of the balcony, the man who's sitting right next to me.
You said that the.
Oh, that was the last row, but we'll do the last row, then the first row. That's cool.
You said that the industry wanted to use these methods because it was the cheapest way possible to get the gas out. Is it possible to get the gas out in a less damaging way to the environment?
This is a really difficult question to answer. I don't think I said that. I think Maurice Hinchey, the congressman from New York, said that. But, you know, the truth here is nobody knows about what's actually going wrong with this. The EPA being taken completely off the job for 10 years when this process exploded all across the country, and even to this day, means that there's no science, there's no data. We just know that there's a big problem, whether that's a problem with accidents, 2 to 5% of these wells going south. And I'll say if 2 to 5% of airplanes crashed, I don't think we'd have any airports, you know, or planes. Or if it's an actual fundamental issue with the fracturing if the pressure's too intense. I mean, I have my theories. When you drill through the aquifer first, and then you end up deeper. It's an incredible, intense amount of pressure. But the truth of it is, you know, these people who are getting their own independent water tests, who are freezing animals in their freezers, haven't had the investigation aid the qualified agency like the EPA could provide in doing that actual hydrogeology, you know. So I mean, just to investigate all of these things. In Pavilion, Wyoming, where I was, they did a study of that just came out of the EPA, actually the first time the EPA got involved, and they're still not really on this. They found these chemicals contaminating 13 out of 44 water wells, and that study took almost a year in just one place. So you're talking about state agencies right now which are completely overwhelmed, which can't handle the job. You know, it could be an incredibly long investigative process. What to do in the meantime, everyone has different ideas about that. But certainly, everywhere I went, it was the same story, and nobody felt like they were safe. And then, of course, you know, being an independent person trying to figure this all out, your whole life is taken over. Your free time is gone completely. Whether you're in whether they show up at your doorstep and they're ready to drill, or if it's on the horizon, it's amazing how it just completely takes over your whole life. So I can imagine it taking over the EPA as well. Okay, right here.
What is your background? Are you like a hippie with a camera?
What's my background? Well, I'm the theater director. This is my second film. It's my first documentary. I never really thought I'd make a documentary, but those kinds of things change when your back's against the wall. All the banjo playing in the movie is real. There's no stunt double or anything. For that, you know, my back.